Hi everyone, here's the Bookemist once again. Welcome to another episode of Best Books Ever. Together, me and you, we've visited Spain, Italy, France and Ireland, and we're going to visit yet another important European country before moving to England for, I think, at least quite a few episodes. I'm talking about Germany. Now, as far as medieval times, as far as the Renaissance is concerned, German literature pretty much doesn't exist. Now, I'm sure there are going to be many German students who are going to throw stones at me, and again, it's not like it didn't exist, of course. There are so many popular leads, popular songs and narratives, some interesting picaresque novels like the Simplicissimus by whoever wrote it, but I've heard professors of German literature admitting, yes, okay, before the 18th century we didn't have anything comparable to other European literatures. But in the 18th century you have this guy called John Wolfgang von Goethe, who changed things completely. Goethe is widely considered one of the best writers in European literature, one of the greatest intellectuals and philosophers of all times, of Germany itself, which pretty much produced quite a few philosophers actually. And as far as literature itself is concerned, as far as poetry and prose are concerned, I've heard those same German professors claim that no one in history really compares to Goethe. Not even Shakespeare. Don't look at me, I've heard it said. Now, Goethe produced quite a lot of very fascinating poems, some interesting novels like the Selective Affinities, the Seelenwallenschaft, whatever. His most famous work is the Faust, which is one of the great poems in European literature. It can be compared to the Divine Comedy in many ways, but I haven't read it because my German is not good enough and I have other stuff to read. So instead I'm going to talk about a very simple, very short novel which he hated later in his life, which is The Sorrows of Young Werther. I'm going to talk about the book, which I will call Werther because its title is too long, for two reasons, to make 2 points. Young adult novels are stupid, and you should never claim that popular fiction is stupid. Young adult novels are not stupid. I've read great young adult novels, not many because I don't read the genre, but I mean, I'm sure they are all great, really. I was being ironical earlier. The point is that I have never really understood why people started writing, started tagging these books like this. I mean, theoretically speaking, I understand it. These are books that are not exactly for adults, but they are for people who are going to become adult, who are facing some of the things, like adolescents or people in their early 20s are facing, who are facing these, hormone storms, all these social issues. This is, makes sense, theoretically speaking. But then again, I think, does it make sense really? I mean, when I was 12, I read adult books and I didn't have any problem with it. What's the problem with adult books? That they deal with adult situations, with sex, with violence? Don't young adult books do it graphically? How old do you need to be to get impressed by those things? 8, 7? Read Goosebumps books if you're 8 or 7. Don't even young adult novels. It might be a stupid point, and I might have not gotten the genre, the category itself yet, but I can't help but thinking that young adult novel, many people read them because they simply mean easier than normal novel. A small disclaimer, it's not like I hate young adult novels or the people who read them. It's not like I think they are stupid. It's just what I've given you. It's just my reason why I don't feel too compelled to read a book if it's tagged as young adult. I actually probably feel less inclined to read it, actually. I feel a bit underwhelmed. Please don't hate me, please don't. The Sorrows of Young Werther features all those topics that you find today in young adult novels, like being an adolescent, facing all this turmoil of emotions, having to grow up, but not wanting to grow up. I don't think you can say wanting in English. Growing up in a society that just doesn't understand you and loving a person so much, but not being able to be with her. All these things. And it is an adult book, it's not young adult in any way. Sorrows of Young Werther is one of those books like another not young adult novel on the topic, like The Catcher in the Rye by J.D. Salinger, which you should definitely read if you are 16, even though most likely you won't be able to appreciate it. You should definitely read if you're like 21 or 22 and you want to feel like, well, had I read this thing like 6 years ago, I would have been so much better off, but whatever. It crystallizes beautifully what it means to be young, to be very much in love, to, again, face a world you don't understand, that doesn't really understand you, face a world so full of horrible stuff, with all your ideals, your childhood ideals, still intact, but about to get smashed. It's a very powerful book on this front. Why you should never, my second point, you should never hate or look down on popular fiction, because The Sorrows of Young Werther, in many ways, is the very first bestseller in history, at least bestseller in the contemporary sense. Bruce Sterling in the 1990-91 whatever Slipstream Manifesto, where he said that science fiction was in a terrible state because science fiction novels produced, for instance, board games or produced merchandising, or they were used in this sense, were commercialized, probably didn't know that The Sorrows of Young Werther, one of the best books in German literature, had its own perfume when it came out. It was so popular, people couldn't have enough of it. It inspired so many other books, 5 Seconds of Italian Literature, Le Ultime Lettere di Jacopo Hortis, Jacopo Hortis' Last Letters. It inspired a line of clothes. People actually dress like young Werther dresses in the book. It also inspired a very terrible thing, which is copycat suicide. I think it's the scientific term. Spoiler alert, people started suiciding after reading the book, started suiciding, committing suicide. Which is of course terrible, but it gives you an idea of the power of such books. Another example will be the novels of Emile Zola, which were considered really pulp literature, really low literature when were they published. They were considered sensationalist fiction, but then became one of the most important classics in 19th century French literature. Another even bigger example will be the novels of Thomas Hardy, which people like Henry James or Robert Louis Stevenson claimed were terrible. These people didn't get shit. Thomas Hardy is the main man in world literature. I'll talk about him in future videos. But that's a bit different because he was actually recognized over the end of his life. Of course, he was like the original OG. Coming back to Werther, you should never look down on popular fiction. People look down on Stephen King until the 80s or 90s. In the early noughts, he got a National Book Award to his career, and nowadays he is considered one of the most important American authors of the 20th century, really of today's world. Which, you see, means that I'm not a snob just because I don't read young adult. I like popular fiction, like The Sorrows of Young Werther. Seriously though, read the book, it's really, really golden. Also very short. Thank you so much for watching, guys. Let me know if you've read Werther, what you think of it, if you like it or hate it. If you're German, let me know what works of literature from Germany, from before Goethe's life, I should check out, since I'm so ignorant on the topic. Actually I am. What other works of German literature I should check out. And in general, let me know what you think in the comments below. I will see you in the next one, guys. Thanks again for watching. Bye, guys.